The doorbell rang at exactly 3 in the afternoon. I was expecting a delivery, something my daughter Melissa said she'd arranged for me. I wiped my hands on a kitchen towel and walked to the front door, smiling at the thought of her thoughtfulness. She'd been distant lately, but this gesture felt like a turning point. I opened the door wide, ready to greet whoever stood on the other side. Instead of flowers or a gift basket, I saw a man in a black mask. Before I could react, he raised a gun and aimed it straight at my chest. My breath caught in my throat. The world seemed to freeze. He leaned closer and whispered through the mask, "She said you'd be easy." My knees weakened. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't think. Then suddenly, bright flashing lights flooded my driveway from every direction. The masked man threw his weapon to the ground and shouted, "Police! You're safe now." He ripped off his mask, revealing a calm, steady face. "I'm Agent Sam Torres, federal undercover." "You're safe, ma'am." I stood there trembling, unable to process what had just happened. Agent Sam stepped forward and gently guided me back inside my house. 2 other officers entered behind him, sweeping through the rooms to make sure everything was secure. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. I sank into my living room couch, staring at the floor, trying to make sense of it all. Sam sat across from me, his expression serious but kind. He pulled out a badge and showed it to me slowly, giving me time to understand. "Mrs. Brooks," he said carefully, "you were the target of a planned hit. We've been tracking this case for weeks." I looked up at him, my voice barely a whisper. "A hit? On me?" He nodded. "Yes." "And the person who hired the hitman was someone very close to you?" My stomach dropped. I felt cold all over. "Who?" I asked, though part of me already feared the answer. Sam hesitated, then spoke her name. "Melissa Brooks. Your daughter." I couldn't breathe. The room spun around me, and I gripped the armrest of the couch to steady myself. "No," I said, shaking my head. "That's impossible. Melissa wouldn't do that. She's my daughter. She loves me." Sam's face softened with sympathy, but his voice remained firm. "I know this is hard to hear, Mrs. Brooks, but we have evidence. Recorded voice messages, money transfers, and photographs of you labeled as the target." He pulled out a tablet and showed me a file with my face circled in red. Below it were notes, details about my routine, my home, my schedule. My hands shook as I stared at the screen. "This can't be real," I whispered. But deep down, a terrible feeling began to settle in my chest. I thought back to the past few weeks. Melissa had been cold, distant, and sharp with me whenever I brought up the family business. Or my estate planning. I brushed it off as stress from her engagement. Now, I wondered if I'd been blind to something far darker. Sam closed the tablet and set it aside. "We need you to come to the station with us," he said gently. "There's more you need to see, and we'll need your statement." I nodded numbly and stood up, feeling like I was moving through a thick fog. One of the officers draped a blanket over my shoulders, even though it wasn't cold. I guess I looked like I needed it. At the police station, they led me into a small, quiet room, with a table and 2 chairs. Sam sat across from me again and pulled out a folder. "I'm going to show you some things," he said. "It's going to be difficult, but I need you to stay with me, okay?" I nodded, bracing myself. He opened the folder and slid a transcript toward me. It was a conversation between Melissa and someone named Trevor. In the text, Melissa discussed taking care of the problem, and mentioned my name directly. My vision blurred as I read the words. "Take care of her," Melissa had written. "She's in the way." I pushed the paper away, unable to look at it anymore. "I don't understand," I said, my voice cracking. "Why would she do this? I gave her everything. I helped her build her life." Sam leaned forward. "We believe your daughter became involved with a man named Trevor Kane. He's part of a fraud network that targets wealthy parents and convinces their children to participate in inheritance scams. Sometimes, they go further." I remembered Trevor. Melissa had introduced him to me about 6 months ago. He was charming, well-spoken, and always seemed to know exactly what to say. But something about him felt off. I could never put my finger on it, so I said nothing. I didn't want to seem like the overbearing mother. Now I realized my instincts had been right all along. Trevor convinced her to do this? I asked. Sam nodded. We believe so. But Melissa made her own choices, Mrs. Brooks. She participated willingly. She transferred money. She provided your schedule. She knew what was being planned. Weeks earlier, things had started to feel strange. Melissa had always been loving and warm. But something shifted after she got engaged. She became cold, easily irritated, and avoided spending time with me. I noticed it first during a family dinner I hosted. I'd invited her and Trevor over to celebrate their engagement. I'd prepared Melissa's favorite meal, set the table beautifully, and even bought a bottle of expensive wine. But the evening felt tense. Melissa barely spoke to me. When I asked about their wedding plans, she gave short, clipped answers. Trevor, on the other hand, was overly friendly. He complimented everything, asked questions about my properties, and seemed very interested in my financial portfolio. At the time, I thought he was just trying to make a good impression. But looking back, I realized he was gathering information. When I mentioned updating my will to include provisions for Melissa's future children, she stiffened. You don't need to do that yet, she said sharply. I was taken aback but didn't push. A few days after that dinner, my accountant called me. His voice was careful, almost hesitant. Mrs. Brooks, I need to talk to you about some unusual activity on your joint account with Melissa. My stomach tightened. What kind of activity? I asked. He explained that Melissa had made several large withdrawals over the past month, totaling nearly $50,000. I'd opened the joint account years ago to help her buy her first home, but she rarely used it anymore. Did she say what the money was for? I asked. My accountant sighed. No. And when I reached out to her, she didn't respond. I felt a knot form in my chest. I decided to talk to Melissa directly. When I called her, she sounded annoyed. Mom, it's my money too. I don't have to explain every purchase to you. Her tone stung. I'm not asking you to explain every purchase, I said gently. I'm just concerned. That's a lot of money. She went silent for a moment, then snapped, You don't trust me. Before I could respond, she hung up. I didn't hear from Melissa for almost a week after that phone call. I texted her a few times but she didn't reply. I felt hurt and confused. I'd always tried to be supportive, to give her space while still being there when she needed me. I couldn't understand why she was shutting me out. Then, out of nowhere, she called me. Her voice was sweet again, almost too sweet. Mom, I'm so sorry, she said. I've been stressed with wedding planning, and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. I felt a wave of relief. It's okay, sweetheart. I understand. Planning a wedding is a lot of work. She laughed softly. It really is. But I want to make it up to you. I'm planning something special for you soon. Just wait and see. I smiled, feeling hopeful. You don't have to do that, Melissa. I want to, she insisted. You'll love it. I promise. When we hung up, I felt lighter. I thought maybe things were going to be okay after all. I had no idea what was really coming. On the day of the attack, I woke up feeling good. It was a sunny afternoon, and I'd spent the morning gardening. Around noon, Melissa sent me a text message. Expect something delivered this afternoon, it read. I think you'll really like it. I replied with a heart emoji and went about my day. I cleaned up the kitchen, made myself lunch, and waited. I assumed she was sending flowers or maybe a gift basket. I never imagined she was sending death to my doorstep. When the doorbell rang at 3, I rushed to answer it, excited to see what she'd chosen. But instead of a delivery person, I found a masked man with a gun. And now, sitting in this cold interrogation room, I realized that Melissa's surprise had been my murder. The thought made me feel sick. How could a child I raised, loved, and sacrificed for want me dead? How could she plan it so carefully, so coldly? I looked at Agent Sam, my eyes filled with tears. What happens now? I asked. Sam looked at me for a few seconds without a word. I could see pity in his eyes. Not for Melissa, but pity for me, for being betrayed by my own daughter. Then he finally gathered his composure to speak. Sam explained the situation carefully. We've been tracking Trevor's group for months, he said. They use social media, fake profiles, and manipulation tactics to find vulnerable targets. Usually, they convince adult children that their parents are standing in the way of their happiness or financial freedom. He paused, watching my reaction. Melissa's name appeared in their communications about 3 weeks ago. The words, "take care of her," were used multiple times. At first, we thought it might be code for something else. But then money changed hands. That's when we knew it was literal. I felt numb. So you've known for weeks that my daughter wanted to kill me? Sam nodded. Yes. And we've been building a case. I posed as a hitman through an underground contact Trevor's group uses. Melissa reached out, provided your information, and paid a deposit. That's when we set up today's operation. I stared at him. You let it get this far? We had to, Sam said firmly. Without catching her in the act, we wouldn't have enough evidence to prosecute. She could have claimed it was a joke or a misunderstanding. Sam pulled out his phone and placed it on the table. I need to show you something, he said quietly. It's a recording of Melissa arranging the hit. It's going to be hard to hear, but you need to know the truth. I hesitated, then nodded. He pressed play. Melissa's voice filled the room, calm and clear. I need this done soon, she said. Before her birthday. She's turning 60, and after that, everything gets locked into a trust. I won't be able to touch it. A man's voice, which I assumed was the fake hitman, responded. And you're sure about this? Yes, Melissa said without hesitation. I'm sure. Just make it look like an accident. A break-in or something. I'll be out of town, so I'll have an alibi. The recording ended. I sat there, frozen, tears streaming down my face. That was my daughter. My only child. Speaking about my death like it was a business transaction. I can't believe it, I whispered. Sam's expression was full of sympathy. I'm sorry, Mrs. Brooks. I really am. Sam leaned back in his chair. Right now, we have enough to arrest both Melissa and Trevor, he said. But I need to be honest with you. Without your cooperation, the case might not be as strong as we'd like. I wiped my eyes. What do you need from me? We need you to act normal, Sam explained. Let Melissa think the plan worked. Let her believe you're still unaware of what she tried to do. That way, we can monitor her movements, gather more evidence, and ensure Trevor's entire network is brought down. I shook my head. I can't do that. I can't pretend everything is fine when my own daughter tried to have me killed. Sam nodded. I understand. It's a lot to ask. But if we move too quickly, Trevor might disappear. He's done this before. He's good at vanishing. I sat in silence, thinking. Part of me wanted justice immediately. But another part of me wanted to make sure Trevor and anyone else involved couldn't hurt another family. Finally, I spoke. How long would I have to pretend? A few weeks, Sam said. Maybe less. We're close to having everything we need. I took a deep breath. All right. I'll do it. But I want protection. And I want updates every step of the way. Sam agreed immediately. You'll have an officer nearby at all times. And I'll personally keep you informed. Over the next few days, I tried to return to my normal routine. I went to the grocery store, attended a book club meeting, and even had coffee with a friend. But inside, I felt hollow. Every time my phone buzzed, I wondered if it was Melissa. And every time I saw her name on my screen, my heart broke a little more. A week after the failed attack, Melissa called me. Hey Mom, she said brightly. How are you? I forced myself to sound normal. I'm good, sweetheart. How are you? Busy with wedding stuff, she said. But I wanted to check in. I haven't heard from you in a few days. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask her how she could act so normal after what she'd done. But I didn't. I've just been resting, I said. Getting older, you know. She laughed. You're not that old, Mom. A few days later, Melissa asked if she could come over. I agreed, even though the thought of seeing her made me feel sick. When she arrived, she hugged me tightly. I stood stiffly, unable to return the gesture. If she noticed, She didn't say anything. We sat in the living room, and she asked about my health. "You seem tired," she said, studying my face. "Are you feeling okay?" I nodded. "I'm fine. Just dealing with some legal things." Her eyes sharpened. "Legal things?" "Yes," I said carefully. "I'm working with my lawyer to update my estate plan, making sure everything is in order." Melissa's smile faltered for just a second. "Oh, that sounds serious." "It's just paperwork," I said casually. "Nothing to worry about." But I could see the tension in her shoulders. She asked a few more questions, trying to sound casual, but I could tell she was nervous. After she left, I called Agent Sam and told him about the conversation. "Good," he said. "She's rattled. That's exactly what we need." A week later, my lawyer called me with troubling news. "Mrs. Brooks, I received a strange request today," he said. "Melissa contacted my office asking for copies of your will. She claimed you've been showing signs of memory decline, and she wanted to make sure everything was in order." I felt a chill run through me. "What did you tell her?" "I told her I couldn't share that information without your written consent," he said. "But I wanted you to know." I thanked him and immediately contacted Agent Sam. He wasn't surprised. "She's getting desperate," he said. "That's a good sign. It means we're close." I started documenting every interaction I had with Melissa. Every text, every phone call, every visit. I shared everything with the authorities, making sure there was a clear record. Meanwhile, I made sure to protect myself legally. I worked with my lawyer to restructure my assets into an irrevocable trust, ensuring that even if something happened to me, Melissa wouldn't be able to access my estate. I also updated my will, removing her as a beneficiary until further notice. It hurt to do it, but I knew it was necessary. Rumors began to spread in my social circles. People whispered that I was losing control of my company, that I was becoming forgetful, that I wasn't managing my affairs properly. I knew where the rumors were coming from. Melissa was planting seeds, trying to make people believe I was unfit. It was a calculated move, designed to make her look like a concerned daughter, and make me look like a confused old woman. But I stayed silent. I didn't defend myself publicly. I let people think what they wanted, because I knew the truth would come out soon enough. Agent Sam kept me updated on the investigation. The FBI had been digging deeper into Trevor's network, and they discovered that he'd been involved in multiple inheritance scams across several states. Melissa's name appeared on fake property deeds, fraudulent loan applications, and forged documents. She wasn't just a victim of Trevor's manipulation. She was an active participant. When Sam told me this, I felt a deep sadness settle over me. My daughter wasn't just greedy. She was a criminal. Finally, after 3 long weeks, Agent Sam called me. "We're ready to move," he said. "We have everything we need. Tomorrow morning, we'll arrest both Melissa and Trevor." I felt a mix of relief and dread. "Will I have to be there?" I asked. "No," Sam said. "But you'll need to come to the station later to give a formal statement. And eventually, you may be called to testify in court." I agreed. The next morning, I woke up early and waited by my phone. At 9 o'clock, Sam sent me a text. "It's done. Both in custody." I sat down on my couch and cried. Not tears of joy, but tears of grief. I was grieving the daughter I thought I had, the relationship I thought we shared. I was grieving the future I'd imagined for her, the grandchildren I'd hoped to meet, the family moments that would never happen. Later that day, I went to the station and gave my statement. I answered every question honestly, even the ones that hurt. I told them about Melissa's childhood, her college years, the moments we'd shared. I wanted them to understand who she had been before all of this. In the days following the arrest, the media picked up the story. My name and face were plastered across the news. Reporters camped outside my house, asking for interviews. I refused them all. I didn't want to be part of a spectacle. I just wanted justice. Melissa and Trevor were held without bail, considered flight risks. I was asked if I wanted to visit Melissa in custody. I said no. I wasn't ready. But a week later, I received a letter from her. My hands shook as I opened it. Mom, it began. I don't know what to say. I never wanted you dead. I just wanted access to my inheritance before the wedding. Trevor said we could do it without anyone getting hurt. He said it would just be a scare. Something to make you reconsider the trust. I was stupid. I was selfish. I was wrong. I'm so sorry. I read the letter 3 times. Part of me wanted to believe her, but I couldn't ignore the recordings. The evidence. The cold planning. She'd known exactly what she was doing. Weeks passed, and the legal proceedings moved forward. I was called to testify as a cooperating witness. Walking into the courtroom felt surreal. Melissa sat at the defense table, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She wouldn't meet my eyes. The prosecutor asked me questions about our relationship, about the joint account, about the dinner with Trevor. I answered truthfully, my voice steady despite the pain in my chest. When it was the defense's turn, Melissa's lawyer tried to paint her as a victim. He argued that Trevor had manipulated her, that she'd been coerced, that she didn't fully understand what was happening. But the evidence spoke for itself. The recordings, the money transfers, the detailed plans. Melissa had been an active participant. When the prosecutor played the recording of Melissa's voice arranging the hit, the courtroom fell silent. I watched the jury's faces. I saw their shock, their disgust. I knew then that justice would be served. Trevor showed no remorse. He sat stone-faced, refusing to speak. His lawyer argued that he was simply a businessman, that any illegal activity was a misunderstanding. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Each day felt longer than the last. I attended every session, sitting in the back row, watching my daughter's life fall apart. Finally, the jury reached a verdict. Trevor was found guilty of fraud, conspiracy, and attempted murder for hire. He was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. Melissa was found guilty of aiding and abetting, fraud, and conspiracy, because she cooperated partially during the investigation and showed remorse. Her sentence was lighter, 12 years, with the possibility of parole after 8. When the judge read the sentence, Melissa broke down sobbing. She looked at me then, her eyes pleading. I stared back, my face calm. I didn't cry. I didn't react. I just looked at her, letting her see the pain she'd caused me. After the verdict, reporters swarmed me outside the courthouse. They asked how I felt, if I was satisfied with the outcome, if I would ever forgive my daughter. I paused, choosing my words carefully. Justice isn't revenge, I said. It's when truth stops the pain from spreading. In the months following the trial, I tried to rebuild my life. It wasn't easy. Everywhere I went, people recognized me. Some offered sympathy. Others looked at me with pity, as if I were broken. But I wasn't broken. I was healing. I sold the house where the attack happened. I couldn't live there anymore, knowing what had almost occurred on my doorstep. I bought a smaller place in a quiet neighborhood, somewhere I could start fresh. I also made the decision to step back from my company. I'd spent decades building it, but I no longer had the energy or the desire to continue. I handed control to my business partner, someone I trusted completely. With my time freed up, I focused on things that mattered. I volunteered at a women's shelter, helping women who'd been betrayed by family members rebuild their lives. I found purpose in their stories, in their resilience. I started seeing a therapist, someone who helped me process the trauma and the grief. It was hard work, but necessary. One afternoon, about 6 months after the trial, I received a letter from Melissa. It was her 3rd letter since being incarcerated. The first 2, I'd thrown away without reading. But this time, I opened it. Mom, she wrote, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I can forgive myself. But I want you to know that I think about you every day. I think about the woman you raised me to be, and how far I fell from that. Prison has given me time to reflect. I've started therapy. I've been reading, learning, trying to understand how I let greed and fear control me. I know I destroyed our relationship. I know I can never undo what I did. But I hope that someday, even if it's years from now. You might be willing to talk to me. Not as my mother, but as a person I wronged. I want to hear your voice again. Even if it's just once. I love you. I always have, even when I lost sight of it. Melissa. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in a drawer. I wasn't ready to respond. Maybe I never would be. Around the same time, I started thinking about legacy. I'd spent my life building wealth, properties, and a business. But what did it all mean if it had nearly cost me my life? I decided to create something meaningful. I established a scholarship fund in Melissa's name. It was designed to help young women who'd been involved in crimes or bad relationships rebuild their lives through education. People questioned my choice. Why would you name it after her? They asked. Because, I explained, I want her name to be associated with redemption, not just destruction. I want other young women to see that mistakes don't have to define you forever. The first year, we awarded scholarships to 5 women. Each of them had a story of betrayal, poor choices, or difficult circumstances. Watching them walk across the stage at their graduation ceremonies filled me with a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. I realized then that healing wasn't about forgetting what happened. It was about transforming pain into purpose. 2 years after the trial, I received word that Melissa was up for an early parole hearing. Her lawyer contacted me, asking if I would be willing to speak on her behalf. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to say no, to let her serve her full sentence. But another part of me remembered the little girl she used to be, the daughter who laughed at my jokes and held my hand in crowded places. I decided to attend the hearing. When I walked into the room, Melissa looked up. Her eyes widened in surprise. She looked older, thinner, but also somehow more present. I sat down and waited for my turn to speak. When the parole board called me forward, I stood and faced them. I'm here today not to defend what my daughter did, I said, but to acknowledge the work she's done since. I've read her letters. I've spoken to her counselors. I believe she is genuinely remorseful. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive her, but I believe in second chances. And I believe she deserves the opportunity to prove she's changed. Melissa was granted parole. She was released 3 months later, with strict conditions and regular check-ins. I didn't attend her release. I wasn't ready for that. But a few weeks later, she called me. Her voice was small, hesitant. Mom, I just wanted to say thank you for speaking at my hearing. You didn't have to do that. I was quiet for a moment. I did it because I believe people can change, I said. But that doesn't mean everything goes back to the way it was. I know, she said softly. I don't expect that. I just hope that maybe, someday we can build something new, even if it's small. We talked for a few more minutes. Nothing deep, just surface-level updates. When we hung up, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet. But maybe the beginning of it. I walked out to my backyard and sat on the porch, watching the sunset. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, beautiful and fleeting. I whispered to the wind, peace is the only victory worth keeping. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. I invited Melissa over for dinner at my new place. She showed up with a faint face. She had many thoughts in her mind. We ate without conversation. We both focused on the table. At some point, she looked me in the eye and asked, Mom, can you ever forgive me? For my silly past. For my betrayal. For everything. Her words filled with regrets. Filled the air like an aroma. Tears rolling through my cheek freely. I hugged her for the first time in 3 years. Such an affection we had shared before things went sour. She sobbed too. I felt more relieved, calm, and peace. Redemption starts with a second chance. I was willing to allow her to have it. We started to rebuild again. This time, with caution. Because I was not ready for further surprises. Have you ever had to draw a line with family to protect your peace? I discovered that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to set boundaries. What would you have done in my shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments section.